How's it, virtuosos? Welcome to Exponential Africa Live, a weekly live show that focuses on bringing the best thought leadership, technology, and innovation to the African continent and the world. Coming in hot from inside a virtual reality environment, this is the VR version of our live action set. I'm talking to you as my lifelike avatar in virtual reality in VHive, built by our very own man-made team. A few weeks ago, we did an Ask Me Anything event in VHive with David Roberts, who is a Singularity University faculty on disruption, innovation, and leadership. David said that this virtual environment reminded him of a time in 1995 when a friend of his took him into his basement and showed him this thing called the internet. David said that he remembered thinking, how can they allow people to look into other people's computers? This VR event felt the same way for David, and he said that after a few minutes, he forgot that he was on a platform and a part of his brain was inside the room and became acclimated to the environment really quickly. Back to reality. There we go. Tonight we're going to look at when and how VR will disrupt our reality. We are seeing a rapid deep dive into virtualization, especially since COVID-19 hit the world. VR and AR are set to be the next wave of computing, creating a virtual digital twin for every physical object in the world, ultimately creating a digital layer over the real world that we can interact with. Tonight we will be covering some of the latest tech stories around VR and AR, then we will be moving into our panel discussion. We have Kathy Hackle, who is one of LinkedIn's top voices on technology and has worked at Magic Leap and HTC Vive. Dimitri Mikhalchuk, who is the co-founder and chief revenue officer at Teslasuit, a full-body immersive VR suit, and Brian Afande, the CEO and co-founder of BlackRhino VR, a VR production company focused on immersive experiences out of Nairobi. A special mention to our partners, who this would not be possible without: our collaboration partner, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, our global partner Deloitte, and our strategic partner MTN. Thank you for your commitment and dedication. You guys really are helping us make a positive impact in South Africa and Africa. We want to say a special thanks to all the parents who gave us feedback last week and told us that they watch the show every week with their kids and they're loving it, learning so much, and their kids are getting into all types of tech like robotics and 3D printing. And after tonight, virtual reality. We promise to keep the show as entertaining and as educational as possible. Lastly, if you want to keep learning about these technologies and thought leadership, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page, click that bell to make sure you get notified when we go live every week, and register on the website to get more info and be eligible for the giveaways. We really appreciate your feedback. Keep letting us know how we can do better. Thank you all for watching and subscribing and engaging with us. Wonderful. Let's get right into it. Fortune Business Insights states that virtual reality in the gaming market alone will reach $45.2 billion by 2027. But there's more to VR than just gaming. It's the lifestyle and entertainment segment that is set to boom in VR too. A virtual and augmented reality shopping mall featuring virtual stores you can only visit digitally has already been launched in the US. The e-commerce site Obsess acts as a virtual shopping center, allowing users to visit stores with the latest fashion, beauty, and fitness products and view photorealistic 3D models of the products. The much-loved Glastonbury Festival has been replaced by Lost Horizon VR. It's set to be the world's largest independent music festival in virtual reality, and it's taking place in a couple of weeks' time. So anyone in the world will be able to attend, and apart from the musical lineup, there will be over 200 pieces of art for the audience to discover and interact with. This is going to be a great case study for future festivals. And tonight, John Legend will perform in VR too. Virtual Concerts First Wave uses cutting-edge broadcast and gaming technology, creating motion-captured performances of the artists and turning them into their own digital avatars in virtual worlds, much like you saw at the start of the show. Earlier this year, Epic Games announced that its live concerts for Travis Scott in Fortnite drew more than 27 million viewers to see his astronomical show. So this space really has legs. Tourism is also jumping into VR now. There's a faster, safer, and environmentally friendlier way to travel to the center of the galaxy, and it happens to be in VR. NASA has co-developed a free VR adventure providing 500 years of travel around the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. You can download it from Steam and Viewport. Travelers can also visit Notre Dame. Immersed in 360 video, visitors can admire the splendor of the cathedral before the fire, with the second part of the experience devoted to Notre Dame after the fire. The footage was shot by the VR studio Targo using a drone and rover, which succeeded in reaching the remotest corners of the building. Fancy a virtual tour of Chernobyl? The Street View app for Google Daydream and Cardboard has your passport ready. And VR Focus allows you to explore Switzerland or Yosemite. Google Earth and Google Earth Voyager also feature travel sections. Australian company White Spark Pictures offers factual and immersive and interactive productions like a trip through Antarctica to sell out audiences at Australian museums. And if that was not enough to convince you that VR is here to stay, Facebook has placed itself firmly behind VR by giving Oculus Go the no-go. Facebook said it will discontinue the Oculus Go virtual reality headset due to its limited functionality, graphics capabilities, and speed. The company said on Tuesday that it will double down on other products like the Quest. And I mean, we bought this just 2 years ago and it's already been discontinued. Bloomberg reports that the company is working on a new Oculus Quest for release next year. And in other exponential tech news, AR meets metal and it's practically a hit. Musical artist Funk Turkey inserted a heavy metal band Metallica's lyrics into an AR bot and waited for the possible outcomes. The result? Lyrics to a new Metallica-esque song called Deliverance Rides. The die-hard Metallica fans are actually pretty impressed, though Loudwire.com states that the bot might not have used enough years for it to be truly believable. Moving into the medical field now, a first-of-its-kind augmented reality technology is now being used by neurosurgeons. In Baltimore, Johns Hopkins Hospital has started performing major surgeries with the assistance of AR. By using a computer image and placing it on the view of the real world, surgeons are able to use apparatus with precision and no longer have to look up at any other equipment to make important decisions. It's right there in front of them on the hospital table. And in a college football study, Gopal Namdi et al. Have found that compared with isokinetic training and other conventional training, that strength training through virtual reality improves pain significantly, as well as sports performances in players with chronic lower back pain. Next up, we turn the spotlight to a great African innovation in the realm of VR and AR. Habitat XR was named one of the Fast Company magazine's most innovative companies in 2019. Their immersive wildlife experiences have won many accolades and have been part of the official selection at festivals like the Tribeca Film Festival, Earth X Film Festival, Wildscreen, and the official Samsung Developers Conference. Made in the Mara, a documentary about Habitat XR's origins will be released on Showmax toward the end of the year. All of this great work has fueled their mission to reconnect people to nature through technology-led immersive experiences. And it's their goal to revolutionize environmental education by ensuring that modern life pays homage to the environment. Their immersive offerings like 360 video, free roam VR, augmented reality, and volumetric video are being used to teleport people to the wild, democratizing access to nature and empathy that comes with it. They work with conservation NGOs and have filmed wildlife in this new way all over the world, having recently worked with Ellen DeGeneres and her Ellen Fund, filming gorillas in Rwanda, as well as being the first team in the world to film snow leopards in VR in the Himalayas in late 2019. Thanks to all the amazing human beings for donating to my Rishi already. Over the last few shows, We've raised over 10,000 Rand, and we are hoping to raise this number to 15,000 Rand before our final episode of Season 1 next week. You can scan the QR code on your screen and make a donation. All the proceeds from tonight's donations and all the learning materials. The value of this opportunity is a whopping 125,000 Rand or 2.2 million Rand. This ends next week, so make sure to register on our website to be eligible for the prize. We'll be randomly selecting the winner from the registrations or allowing you to nominate one lucky student. The winner will be announced during the Workforce of the Future show happening next week on the 2nd of July. It's now time to move on to our main segment of tonight's show. The virtual reality is set to disrupt the way we work, play, are educated, and socialize. The best part is that this will be the worst it ever gets, and the resolution, latency, and experiences will continue to improve into the future. As virtual reality and augmented reality technologies mature and adoption increases, these exponential technologies are going to have the same impact on society as the internet have. I love Edgar Dale's cone of experience concept, where he postulated that we remember a small percentage of what we read, a larger percentage of what we hear, and a much greater percentage of what we experience. VR and AR are immersive, and you learn by experiencing and by doing. If you've never experienced VR, I suggest you try, because you can make sure it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Mark Zuckerberg has proclaimed that he wants over 1 billion people using Oculus, which is ambitious, but still possible if VR and AR become the next major computing and communication platforms. So tonight, we have Kathy Hackel, Dimitri Mikhalchuk, and Brian Afande. Kathy Hackel is a leading female futurist and business strategist specializing in the impact emerging technologies like AR, VR, and AR, and are having on communications and business. In 2019 and 2018, LinkedIn recognized her as the top technology voices on the platform globally, its highest honor. Hackel has worked on enterprise strategy, innovation, communications, and developer marketing strategy, and business evangelism with brands like UPS, HTC Vive, Sony Pictures, Magic Leap, and Adobe. She's been shortlisted as Technology Evangelist of the Year 2020 by the Women in IT Awards, and is working on her second book, The Augmented Workforce, How AR, and 5G will impact every dollar you make, coming in the fall of 2020. Kathy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. My background's not as nice as yours, Mick. I'm actually at a hotel on a beach vacation right now, socially distanced. But yeah, I'm excited to be here and sharing some knowledge of the things I've worked on the past and the things that are coming in the future.
Thanks so much. I mean, we were together in Costa Rica in February before COVID hit and this whole lockdown. And we were having some amazing conversations around the future of spatial computing. You showed me the Magic Leap, the new Magic Leap device. We got to experience it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what's coming in this space in terms of the spatial computing era?
Yeah, I think obviously we're going to have a great conversation today regarding that. But what you're starting to see is that merging of the physical and the digital. You're starting to see an acceleration as well due to the pandemic and everything that's happening of companies of all sizes adopting VR and AR. There's a company that I'm good friends with, for example, that's called LibraStream that just raised, I think, $54 million in one of their rounds. And they've grown in the past 12 months, I think, by 300%. And they offer an AR solution for manufacturing. So you're starting to see, kind of an acceleration into the adoption of these technologies. And another thing, the event you showed with David Roberts in virtual reality, you're starting to see a lot more virtualized events, whether it is that John Legend concert or whether it's meetings in virtual reality. That's also accelerating at quite a fast pace. One of the things that I see coming is, travel budgets. Obviously, we're not traveling right now, but when we do get back to some new future, some new normal, whatever you want to call it, budgets are going to be cut by companies. And, I think a lot of people are going to look for technologies like VHive, or other virtual or augmented reality opportunities. And instead of the executive traveling for a meeting, they will put on their headset, whether in AR and VR, and have that meeting in realistic avatars. So it's a really interesting time because these technologies are just being accelerated.
And I think it's so incredible the way the ecosystem is so vast and dynamic. I mean, some of the companies that we mentioned that you've worked with are these really large-scale beasts that can really create massive impacts by embracing VR. But you also mentioned some of the smaller startups and these new age companies. How are you seeing this whole ecosystem play out?
Well, I'm of the mind that the Facebooks and the Amazons of the future are being created right now, because as you explained, what's happening is that digital twin, that one-on-one digital copy of the world is being created. And the reason this is important is because that's the way autonomous cars are going to have spatial reasoning to be able to fully drive autonomously. It's the way robots are going to be able to navigate the world. It's the way that eventually when we're wearing glasses, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about that, when we're wearing glasses, that information will be, it will know where to be present in reality in a specific location. So it's this, what it's called the metaverse or the AR cloud. Facebook calls it live maps, for example, is being created. It's being established, and it's going to lead to exponential growth. So the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Jeff Bezos of the future are the people that are working, creating these companies right now. So it's a really exciting time, for anyone in the industry, or I know there's young people watching the show. There's a huge opportunity to create something amazing.
No, thanks. We're gonna get a bit more into detail when we head into our panel. It's a perfect segue into our next guest, who is Dimitri Mikhalchuk. Dimitri is the founder and co-founder of several tech companies and startups. He is also in charge of the London-based digital marketing agency. Previously, he worked with some of the world's leading chip and electronics manufacturers. Dimitri is an expert in electronics, haptics, wearables, robotics, and software development. He's at the top of the most influential people in the field of VR and AR, according to the Evening Standard UK. Dimitri is also passionate about space technologies, and he holds a master's degree in electronic engineering and computer science from the University of Surrey. Dimitri, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. I was watching the news that you, Mick, has just presented, and I thought, wow, I want to work there. I want to work in the VR industry. But hey, I'm already, so I'm happy.
Yeah, so it's so great that you're joining us in from your offices in London. And we were together also in Australia last year in October, where I got to try on your Teslasuit, and that just really blew my mind. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Teslasuit and your journey with it?
So essentially, when we started in 2016, we decided to go a parallel route to the development of the VR headsets and augmented reality. And we decided to take care of the rest of the body. We foresaw that once everybody gets accustomed with the VR and with augmented reality, everybody will ask this question: how can I feel that virtual object? So we want to touch it. So first we created the suit, and then this year at CES 2020, we've presented the new glove, which will take care of the sensations of sensing the object itself. So the glove will take care of the shape and form of the object, and with the haptical feedback, we provide sensations, collision sensations with the rest of the digital world. So this is how we can identify and fully immerse the body into the augmented or virtual reality, and make sure we can do so many more things, like engineering, like gaming. We're talking about a virtualized sport, or simply creating a full twin of a digital twin of a professional, for example, virtual coach, and so on and so forth. So many other opportunities.
I mean, it's really incredible what you've done, because the experience I tried it with you was I threw a grenade and I felt like the fire and the repercussions of the heat on my body, which I found really incredible. And I can just imagine, in terms of the training area for the army, or in South Africa specifically for the mining industry, you could really create an incredible training experience without having to have the risk or the danger of anyone getting hurt.
Absolutely. Teslasuit products are very, very popular in what we call safe to fail environment training. This is where we apply to all the critical training where specific procedures have to be followed, otherwise there could be a disaster. And then in order to lead people through the fact that the disaster is actually developing right now in front of their eyes, so they learn how to act in a critical situation, we can always provide this virtualized environment. We can control it. We can have a coach overseeing it, and we can stop it at any point in time. But what's important is we teach people to live through moments where they have to act fast and never hesitate. So we essentially train them to be super people.
Absolutely amazing. So we're going to hear a bit more about that later. Let's move on to our next guest, Brian Afande. Brian is the co-founder and managing director of BlackRhino VR, an extended reality agency based in Nairobi. As an early African XR adopter, Brian holds a peculiar vision of designing, democratizing, and demystifying what extended reality, XR, and new emerging technologies will look like, and how they will impact communities. Brian, thanks for being on the show. We just lost your sound there. Can you try speak again?
Sorry, Dimitri, can you hear me?
Sorry, there we go. You're back.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Yeah.
Coming in all the way from Kenya. With you guys are supposed to have the incredible internet, right?
No, it's not an internet issue. I actually put it on mute.
All good. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
No, I'm all right, man. We're in Nairobi, and like you mentioned, we're busy trying to make sure that communities respond really well to the extended reality technology. How else do we get to deploy it in this context? So we're really passionate about this. As a small studio, we started out, of course, as a cinematic VR company. But over the years, we've been able to see how and understand the technology. And we're really passionate about building enterprise solutions so that we can be able to at least pay our bills. And at the same time, building awareness around the potential of these technologies and building vibrant communities around it. So we not only work in Nairobi and East Africa, we've worked on several projects within the continent as well and globally.
I mean, it's such an exciting space, and I think your name is an incredible name, because what you can do in terms of conservation, like we saw with Habitat, with trying to raise awareness for the BlackRhino. What are some of the projects you guys have been working on that's been exciting across Africa?
I think right now, I mentioned this project is an intervention we are working with the Kenyan government right now. And because of COVID being now a catalyst to tech adoption, so we decided to create a virtual tour that people will be able to actually go into a platform and have a live safari. So you'd be able to book for your safari times, whether or not it's a morning game drive or the evening game drive, and you can be able to actually go through it. And what is really surprising about this whole concept is the fact that the government is really open to these interventions and the technology itself. So we're really happy to be in this space because we're able to talk to different people, whether or not they're like governments or different corporates. So the idea of us creating these experiences that people can be able to be in a space and enjoy 360 experiences of animals and such things, is very important for us to do this kind of work. One of the projects we did in South Africa was a collaboration between BlackRhino and Oculus. And it was an experience, it was a cinematic experience based on a child in Cape Town and how he's gotten out of the streets and how art has gotten them out of the streets. It's a beautiful experience, and the idea of traveling around, just creating cinematic experiences and talking to different vibrant communities and finding how best we can bring all those silos together, either through leveraging on the cinematic VR experiences or also picking up other technologies within the extended reality spectrum. So we're really happy about such projects and interventions.
No, it's really exciting. And I spoke to Regina Njima, who's our Singularity U Kenya partner in Nairobi, and she says she's working with you, which is quite exciting for the upcoming summit in Kenya. So we're gonna jump into our main panel and get into some of the Q&A with the guests. So let's start with quite a big question, and let's go to Kathy. Kathy, one of our questions is, why does VR and AR, spatial computing, change everything?
It's really interesting because if you follow the history of the AR and VR industry, we've had moments where a lot of people were excited about it and then died down and everything. I think that right now, connectivity is getting better with 5G and speeds to come. The technology is advancing. For example, the Oculus Quest you have there is untethered. It has hand tracking. I mean, the technology is just going so fast. It changes everything because it allows us to really experience things in a totally different way. It will allow us also to eventually give up these rectangles in our hands and the rectangles we have in our walls or on our top of our desks, and be able to engage with digital information in our reality. And I think that that's very impactful. I always think about it, when I think about teenagers looking down at their phones, they're always looking down. Once we're able to have the technology, especially augmented reality, be glasses and be something, I call it the Ray-Ban moment. Once we're able to have that up here, I'm going to be able to sit at the dinner table and have a conversation with my teen. But we're going to be looking at each other's eyes. Yeah, there will be information and data, but I feel like we're going to be back to a more human way of engaging with technology and engaging with each other. So, and it's a long way to answer your question.
No, that was a great answer. Brian, do you want to add to that at all?
No, she said it really well. Just the idea of bridging those two worlds and creating, some of these things are going to be obsolete, like mobile phones, but we also have to look at the bigger picture of what's happening in terms of also creating the infrastructure. It just doesn't happen, especially in the African context. It won't happen by magic. So we have to build the right infrastructure. So I think between what's happening in the West and Africa, there's two different realities of things. But I guess as an early adopter right now in Africa, it's very critical for us to think about the future of it and how and what all we're going to play with it. So in terms of, like I said before, when we're building all those communities, then we need to sit down and build infrastructure together so that it's possible for us not to render something like the mobile phone useless in Africa, because this is life in Africa. So how do we even create that technology to leverage on the computing power of the mobile phone, while still at the same time creating immersive experiences around it? So yeah, we look at things from different lenses, but more or less bridging the physical and the virtual worlds is a reality.
I think that's so important for us to build out these infrastructures. And just like the Teslasuit, I would call that, it's like a unique infrastructure to get you to get to feel within virtual reality or virtual worlds. Dimitri, why is it such a good time now to dive deeper into this tech, especially since COVID?
Well, to begin with, now is the time when the general population is getting accustomed to more digitalized way of conducting business. We're talking about e-commerce, where now the internet is finally fast enough to support 4K, 8K transmission, talking about infrastructure itself. And then when we're looking beyond that, beyond the visual transmission, we then need to think, how can we, once we've created the digital world, how can we take everything that's available in the real world and bring it over? Because we still need our sensations, we still need to interact with the objects, even though they're virtual, and we still need to communicate between each other. So creating that sensation of touch, being remote, especially in the times of COVID, it becomes apparent. We still want to communicate. We still want to have body language. It's a lot easier when we see each other than when we just hear each other. For example, me spending tons of time on Zoom, for instance, and other messengers. When I don't see the person, it's a lot harder to even understand what we're talking about, to stay focused, for instance. But imagine if we could exchange the objects, we could collaborate on the same car concept design, things like that. If we wanted to pick up some shopping and we actually wanted to have a look at it, digitalized or not, we still need a lot of information to be processed before we make a decision. So it is important that we have all of the sensations and all of the visuals from the real world transported into the digital world. And that's how we essentially erase the boundaries between the real and virtual. And that's how we bridge the two. And suddenly it becomes, certain models are becoming viable. We're working with aerospace, for instance, taking on-Earth sensations into the International Space Station is our next plan next year. We're already working on that, and certain models, virtualized models of how to work with the equipment that cost tens of millions of dollars, for example, before it's been shipped. We can allow to break it. And that's important. It doesn't cost a penny in virtual environments. So it's all fun.
It's just such an exciting space. I think if we think about in terms of the social environment is another aspect of how we actually socialize with each other. Kathy, do you think this can bring humanity closer, even in this time of social distancing, if we can socialize and feel like we're in the same space?
I definitely think it can. So I am like many of you, I am the type of person that I get my energy from people. So when I go to conferences and events, it's just a moment to re-energize and connect with, and just get re-energized. And one of the things I've done during the pandemic is I've spent a lot of time in social VR with friends. So I feel like we're in the same place because you have that feeling, that sense of presence, let's say. So, even though my friends could be all around the world, we put on our headsets, and even though we see our avatars, we do feel that sense of presence. And I feel like, okay, I'm getting that energy from people again. Even at Magic Leap, one of the things that we did during the pandemic was hold for our sales team, our weekly sales meetings. We would put on our augmented reality headsets and go into something called Spatial and hold meetings, in augmented reality. So basically what you would see is these realistic avatars of my colleagues. I posted a video on LinkedIn not too long ago, and a lot of people asked questions. It was really interesting. One of the funny things that happened, Mick, and I'll share this quickly, is I was in my office having a meeting in Spatial, and my daughter came in and she was like, "Who are you talking to?" And I took the headset off, I put it on her, and all of a sudden she sees about 10 or 15 of my colleagues in a spreadsheet in my office, and she's like, "Oh, okay, I totally get it, mommy, go back to work." So it was a really interesting thing for me to watch that, where it totally made sense to her.
Wow, it's so exciting. And I think, what's interesting is that you get two types of this virtual reality environment. You get the environment that's completely animated and recreated, and then you get the environments like you're creating, Brian, with 360 video, where you actually get to experience the real world. I almost think there might be a time when we're going to merge both of those, and we're going to be living in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Brian, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. There's pros and cons of where we're going with the future. it's a bit scary though. You know, when you think about it, human beings are the connecting link between the physical and the digital worlds. And if we're the connecting link, then it reaches a point where it's going to be okay for you to be in this environment with other people socially, but think about the people you're with in your particular environment. There's going to be a lot of antisocial stuff also going on, as much as it is going to be a social platforms and different avatars. So we really need to be wary as to the adverse effects of this technology as well. As much as it's working for good, there's also a downside of it. And we have to be cognizant to the fact that as much as we are getting into the tech adoptive part of it, we also need to sensitize people about what are some of the pitfalls that this technology can bring. So we're really looking at it from a very conscious perspective to understand how best, and just to let you guys know, part of our mandatory and part of the culture that we are trying to create is using the technology for good. And how do you start deploying it in these different contexts and using it for good? Because I see the future is very bright for it, but I don't want it to be in such a way that my wife and kids will be in the house and say, Papa is always working on this thing, we never see him, just because I'm in this environment. So it has an upside and downside as well, and we have to be careful about it.
No, I think that's such an important point. At Singularity, one of our main objectives is to try create a positive future that we all want to live in, and to solve some of the big challenges that we have in the world. And we say it's really up to us. We can either create, you can use fire to either create warmth, or you can use it to burn down a house or something. So it's really up to us to use this technology for good, like you say. Dimitri, I want to move into a bit of a different space, talking about the Teslasuit and where it's going. And, you know, this whole idea of uploading our digital conscious into the cloud and being able to experience, you know, haptic touch in these digital experiences. Do you want to just explain that a bit more? And where do you think that's going?
Well, we know from the previous experience that the first sensation that we actually feel as babies when we're born is the warm hands of first the doctor and then our mother. So that's the first sensation. So biologically, we're programmed to respond to the touch in a very positive way. It actually excites a lot of neurons in our brain. It actually, which reduces in its turn a lot of possible diseases and actually improves our general resistance to many problems. So essentially, touch is very important for us. And with the society, like modern society, where people are becoming, you know, more separated, when we work in say city, very fast pace, we don't get enough hugs, for instance. So that social aspect is being broken, and we're distancing ourselves, even without the COVID itself. Yet we can still get that back. We can still bring the very simple sense of touch, and the sense of touch actually makes many other things possible. Many other things are activating in our body. For example, one of the projects that we're working with space agencies, for instance, the current project that we're working on, is solving a problem of having on-Earth sensations on the orbit or in the long-term space flight. The reason why this is important is that continuous touch will reduce the loss of, or will actually slow down the loss of calcium in our skin, so the skin doesn't degrade as fast. It will also help us reduce the loss of muscular mass when we're in a complete zero gravity. Things like that. So this is why touch is important, and this is what we decided to bring into the experience itself first on Earth. We provide capability essentially to communicate between each other in a natural way, and at the same time not having a sort of shallow, empty experience. We still need to communicate or connect with objects. Otherwise, the whole experience, it will have a wow effect at first. But we kind of understood that after a certain period of time, we still want to have that same effect as we do in real life. So touch is important by itself, but we're not stopping there. Teslasuit also provides biometrical feedback, so we can understand how the touch is actually affecting people in digital environments. So we can tweak the actual environment to better suit the user. We can increase the intensity or decrease the intensity depending on how the person feels towards that specific experience, and so on and so forth. And then we can study better the effects and further kind of issues that may arise from us being fully immersed in the environment, and actually making sure that the environment is safe for the user. Like we're thinking about parental control, for instance. Before we dive into letting kids roam the digital space on their own, we need to understand it better. We need to put the specific safeguards, for instance, in the space, so we avoid many issues that could come with the technology. As you rightfully said, fire can be used for warmth, or it can be used to burn down the building. So we have to be aware of that, and we have to be mindful.
And I want to ask you, Kathy, around the idea of uploading our brains into the cloud and living forever, and how that will work with haptic touch and that sort of thing. You know, there's that show Upload that sort of pursues that idea. Well, what do you think about that? You write a lot about that, I read.
Yeah, I was actually interviewed as a futurist by Amazon Video for the series. And they did an episode called Ask a Futurist, and I was part of the folks included in that. So very involved. I've also been thinking a lot about it. I'm a contributor to Forbes, and I've been writing about some of these things. For example, in one of my latest articles, I introduced people to 10 companies working to read your thoughts and even your pets, and even that of those of your pets. And there's one company in there called Nectome that actually is working on preserving fresh brains to be able to upload your information later on, and I guess be brought back in a digital form of some sort with your memories and your memories and your personality, etc. So yeah, even though it is a sci-fi comedy, Upload was a sci-fi comedy, there are companies working on potentially allowing us to upload our brains into the cloud. I mean, you've got Elon Musk as well working with Neuralink. That's more invasive because it's an actual implant. But yeah, my thoughts about that, Mick, are that it's no longer science fiction, it's science fact. And while we don't have the capability to upload ourselves into the cloud yet, there's definitely people out there trying to crack the code and potentially get that to happen. So, it's a singularity in some ways.
Thanks for that. We're going to move on to the next part of the show, where we're going to open it up to live questions. And we've got a huge amount of questions that are coming through. We're going to start off with a question from Get Howard. He asks, do you think there is a place for mixing VR with live events and still create a cohesive experience? Can we create a cohesive experience with live events and using VR? Brian, let's kick it. Do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, sure thing, because I like that question, because this is exactly what we're doing right now in Nairobi. Trying to see how best we can create that environment where people can be immersed live, but still make sure that we're mixing with superimposition or an extended reality of what exactly is happening around you. It is definitely possible. And I think there are platforms that can actually allow you to do that. I haven't used the Magic Clip, and maybe Kathy would be able to let us know on that. But I believe with the Magic Clip, you can be able to do that. Apple just acquired a company called NextVR, who are into live gaming. And I believe probably in future, this is one of the things that they'll be trying to do. But right now, we're currently working on a project like this in Nairobi that will ensure that that is happening. But we're also consulting a lot of people from the West in terms of building that platform.
Kathy, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it brings a lot of value, and it could be a different type of experience. So I'm all for making it cross-platform. So if an experience is in VR, allowing people to experience it in their desktop as well. This is where I think it gets really interesting, and I talk a lot about this. For example, with esports, when you're watching esports, a lot of people get into it. They're watching their gamers play. If you're watching VR, virtual reality esports, it's a little bit different because you're watching the players doing their thing, but you're not really getting into the action. So where I think it's going to be really interesting, and I think Teslasuit in some ways is part of this, is creating that immersive spectating. That's what I call it, immersive spectating. So if you think of live events and how, you can create that immersive spectating experience for people when they put the headset on or when they're in the desktop, and allowing them to be more immersed and actually participate in some way. I think that's where it gets really exciting really fast.
Thanks. Dimitri, I don't know if you heard that question, if you want to add to that at all?
Well, we've already participated in an activation with Vodafone UK and a rugby team. This is where we simulated a tackle where the tackle dummy was located 100 miles away from the person on stage wearing the Teslasuit. Little did he know that the last person to tackle will be the biggest team player who he could stand against. And obviously the team player has managed to knock him off his feet. That opens up an idea for when we can digitalize the actual stadium, the actual playing area, and have the clothing transmit the avatar of actual players, and us then being able, with the use of AR or VR, to place ourselves at any point of the field to actually spectate that. And we can actually allow the sensations to be transmitted or just disconnected altogether. But nevertheless, we could have a view from any point on the field, which would be super cool. It opens up so many opportunities for mixing the real live events with digitalized kind of spectatorship. And as far as I know, digital spectatorship now is growing faster than actual, for example, esports. In esports itself, the digital spectatorship is already bringing more money, I think, than the gaming itself. So yeah, that's certainly a future.
I think that is very exciting, because especially I'm a big gamer, and when we're playing games in a Teslasuit, you're going to be working out quite a bit. So our gamers are going to be fit, healthy, and able, thanks to the Teslasuit in the future. We're going to move on to our next question from Nelio De Freitas. And Nelio is asking, Kathy, maybe if you can answer this one. Microsoft has been working on mixed reality. How does this play within the VR, AR mixed space?
Okay, so now that I don't work for Magic Leap, I can answer that question. Before I couldn't. I think it's really interesting because Microsoft is such a part of the business ecosystem. So if you look at what they're doing with cloud, with Azure and everything, you think about this digital one-to-one map of the world, and you think about where cloud computing is going, where the AR cloud is going. It's going to be a really interesting combination there for cloud computing players. So whoever's in cloud computing is also looking at this AR cloud in this metaverse where the digital information is going to live. So yeah, there's a component there, there's a convergence there, and it's definitely interesting. I mean, if you look at Microsoft's play with the HoloLens, it's always been presented as an enterprise product. They know this is not a consumer-ready product, at least not yet. So they've been very, very smart in creating that, and having that be an enterprise product that very much aligns in some ways with their Azure product and that side of the enterprise. So you're going to see a lot of growth, a lot of competition, I think, as well. In when we get to that metaverse, that AR cloud.
No, awesome. Thanks for that. We got a question from Tim Merriweather, where a lot of these devices, as you mentioned, the HoloLens are quite expensive. Brian, do you want to answer this one? Tim's asking, what's a good entry-level kit to get started? How do you get into VR? What's the first step in?
First question would be, where exactly is Tim from? Is it in Africa, Europe, or in the States? Because depending, if you're in Africa, you have your VR boxes. They might not be as robust. The form factor is not, of course, as good as what you have, like the Oculus Go or something like a 6DoF system, like what you're having with you, man. Like it's very specific according to also your budget. So depending, if you have a mobile phone and you want something that is just a system that will allow you to consume the content as opposed to interacting with it, you could probably use one of these Chinese cardboards. Like here in Nairobi, we have those cardboards. But if you're looking for a really good system from a 3DoF system going up, you have, of course, the Oculus Go, which has recently been discontinued by Oculus. And then you have something like a 6-DOF system, which is a 6 degrees of freedom system that allows you to really have freedom within an environment. That would actually cost you around $400. So it entirely depends on what head-mounted display unit that fits your pocket and your needs.
Thanks so much. Dimitri, do you want to add to that? What are some of the entry-level ways of getting into VR?
Completely agree with Brian. Depending on what the pocket size is, we can start from a basic cardboard. It's already programming. At least you'll learn how to code, how to understand the interfaces itself, so user experience, how to have the mechanics built in, and then you can progress from there to either standalone headsets that would save you on an expensive gaming laptop that you would otherwise require. So the companies like Pico VR and Oculus are good starting kind of entry point headsets. They provide fully standalone capability. Pico VR just recently released a headset for $750 that allows for eye tracking as well. If you want to go more advanced, this is going to be used next year quite extensively, I have a feeling. So depending on how much you want to spend, all of them are good. And the very least, if you're trying to jump on the VR programming itself, programming is the key word. So this is where one needs to be focusing at the moment.
It's such an incredible ecosystem. There's so many different parts to the VR and AR world. You can be in the devices, in the hardware, in the software, in the content production. It's just such an incredible space. We're going to move, but in South Africa, we've got a question from Katrine Grobler, where we've got a bit of an inequality gap, quite a large inequality gap, and especially with COVID, how can we as SA upskill ourselves and get involved to ensure we take our consumers, people with us? Some are still trading bread for data in the township. So how do we get this into people's hands so that they can access it, embrace this technology, and then thrive by using it?
May I please take this because this is really personal for me?
Sure.
Yeah, so for the first time I was in the States and I was attending the Oculus Connect, and I just realized that there's a huge disparity of women in the playing field of VR. And it's so saddening that when I left Kenya going to the States, I actually thought that I'm coming to a really matured market and I'll find a lot of players being women in the field. But the truth is that there's a huge disparity of women. So when you're talking about how do we upskill ourselves and how do we create a sense of bridging that male and female kind of ratio, I think it's very important, number one, to make sure that the technology is not only democratized, it's also demystified to the people for them to understand and trust it. It's very important for us to trust the technology. So if we demystify it in such a way that these people in the local communities are able to understand it, whether or not, even if it's in South Africa, it's using desktop VR, for them to know how they can use it. And then another thing is making sure that within the value chain of VR, making sure that women play a bigger role in the whole value chain. Whether or not it's in a production perspective or a consumption perspective, it's very important that we try to bridge that gap. I think that the future of where we are going to, we really need to consider that, especially the fact that it's become such a male-dominated industry. I don't know if I answered that question, but this is one of the projects we are doing right now, which is a school for women, and it's an all school for women, and we are getting them through VR for journalism all the way from pre-production to post. So I don't know if I answered the question, but I really feel that in terms of upskilling, the early adopters in virtual reality need to showcase and create platforms for women to take part in it. I don't know if I answered that question.
No, I love that answer. We need more Kathy Hackles in the world. Kathy, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I do want to add to that. I think that, while we do need more women in AR and VR, we do have a strong core group of women. I think we need more women in leadership in XR and VR organizations. for sure. So I definitely echo Brian's sentiment there. One of the things I've done personally is, I'm the type of talk the talk, walk the walk kind of person, is I created the Kathy Hackle Scholarship for Women this year. And it's pretty much a scholarship I give one woman. I give her a membership to the VRAR Association, and I give her mentorship throughout the year. And when I opened up the application process, I was expecting about 30 submissions. We got 90 submissions of women wanting this opportunity. So that to me signals, like Brian said, we need more opportunities like this, more ability for more women to come into the industry, be successful, and have more access.
No, thanks for sharing that. I think it's hugely important to what you've just done, and incredible on your part. We've got a really interesting question from Giant Mystery, who's asking, is there any research being done with special needs kids? I have a son that is very sensory, and I would expect this technology to assist him with his autism. Dimitri, do you want to start off answering this one?
Yes. Well, we on our side, we're actually conducting a lot of different streams of research. For the Teslasuit is very much applicable to medical rehabilitation, chronic pain disease, and rehabilitation of specific conditions. So yes, electrical stimulation is known to be used for rehabilitating the conditions with special needs. In autism, we're looking at how VR. First, we started with looking at how VR itself, the visual, can help us out, and there is good results. I know that there was a research for the visual part itself, and then we're thinking about using very mild electrical stimulation for it activates the neural connections in our body, in our brain. And at the same time, it helps training the neural elasticity. So the brain is actually allocating more memory and allocating more focus to whatever the person is going, to the experience itself that the person is going through. What's even better, that Teslasuit can work as a standalone unit, because it's a wearable computer essentially, with full feedback and full record of what the person psychologically is going through. So psychoanalysis is possible, and we're actually trying to advance our development towards towards the medical field as well. Unfortunately, we can't claim anything for anything that we claim to be medically fit. Takes years to get approval for. But we are very strong. We have connections with more than 40 universities worldwide, and I'm hoping that soon, we're talking about a couple of years, 3 years time from now, we will be able to offer products that would actually be medically certified and help the society to rehabilitate.
Thanks. I really just love hearing these well-informed answers. Kathy, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so at Magic Leap, we actually did work with the Dan Marino Foundation, where we used the augmented reality headset. We put it on young men and women with autism and helped them through augmented reality to practice for job interviews. So they would put the headset on and sit, and they would see a virtual avatar, a virtual human in front of them interviewing them. So we're preparing them to practice for an interview process. And that has been a really interesting project. It's been very successful, very, welcomed by the autism community. So yeah, there's definitely work being done to use these technologies to help people with sensory disorders.
Thanks. And just one last point on this. Where can somebody go find out about this? Where can Giant go find out about this?
Essentially, Teslasuit has a blog
Sorry, about where she can find out about VR or AR for autism.
Yeah, Katie, that's for you.
Well, no, definitely Tesla. I think they can go to Tesla. What's your website for Teslasuit?
It's Teslasuit.io, and we have a blog where we tend to post, and we're going to have a microsite for medical research. So that's going to be a separate, specifically formulated website made by doctors for the public and for research facilities as well, to to connect with us and help us out to conduct this research. we'll announce it on our blog anyway. So teslasuit.io/blog, that's where we post all the news and very useful advice on VR, AR, and everything else in this world, the digital world.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for that. We're going to move on to one of our last questions coming from Mark Nasilla. Do you think AR, VR will make it easy for society to access basic services such as medical services, education, and communication at affordable costs? Brian, do you want to kick this off? We've lost your sound. Let's move over to Kathy.
While we get Brian back on, I can definitely jump on this one. I think it will, especially if you look at telehealth and the opportunity that lies there with being able to, have your doctor look at you in virtual reality or augmented reality. Definitely very interesting. And you know me, Mick, I always go a step further. I'm out there in the fringe. One of the most interesting things I've seen lately is NTT Docomo, which is a telecom company out of Japan, has a research arm called NTT Research, and they're investing, I think it's $200 million US dollars to use digital twins of people in artificial intelligence to create these digital twins of their bodies and their organs and everything inside, and using artificial intelligence test treatments that are not available yet, and see how their body could react using artificial intelligence. So they're not actually doing these tests on a real human, they're doing them on their digital twin. So I think that's something really exciting.
That is incredible. Brian, I think we got you back. Do you want to answer this question?
Yes, I'm back. So yeah, I don't know about how accessing basic human needs, but I know education is a huge thing, man. Just by the fact that you can be able to it bridges the gap between educators and learners, especially because right now people cannot really travel and stuff. So bringing those two representations of the learners and educators in a platform, for instance, if the students want to go for a trip to a specific ecosystem and they can't go through your normal means, they can of course go through the immersive technology. So I think for education it plays a huge need, and I don't know about accessing the other basic human needs, but I think for education this is where I feel that it's one of the things that virtual reality will also use to pivot its strength.
No, thanks so much. I think we've run out of time. We've got a whole bunch of questions still popping in. I just let's end off with each of you just giving a bit of a closing statement. Where can people go and download applications? How do you learn about VR? How do you get involved? Let's start off with the lady, Kathy.
Definitely. I mean, I try to share a lot of information on LinkedIn on all the latest technologies I test. I feel like I'm a guinea pig for a lot of these technologies. So I share a lot of information on my LinkedIn, which is LinkedIn/IN/Kathy Hackle. So follow me there. I'm also a contributor to Forbes. So you can go to Forbes and find my name there. And also on my Twitter. And yeah, I just think there's so many amazing things happening. And I want to add one last thing as a closing statement with the last question related to access and democratizing some of these things. So normally, when you think about education, and Brian brought this up, we think about, when you go to a certain school, you have access to certain types of teachers and some of the best teachers. But I look forward to the day when children can put on a VR headset anywhere in the world, whether it's cardboard or a Quest, and be able to go into VR and learn physics from an Einstein and learn philosophy from Plato or chemistry from Marie Curie. And they're all going to have access to the best teachers in the world because of these technologies.
So powerful. Can't wait for that day to come, which should be pretty soon. Dimitri, over to you.
Yes. Well, me personally, actually, I'm touring a lot of events throughout the year, so we can connect at any of the bigger events. Well, Mick and us, we were going to do something in South Africa, so hopefully we'll be able to create these learning centers throughout the globe, and essentially thinking about and voicing what Mark Zuckerberg was saying, that he wants 1 billion in VR next year or onwards. I can see that the other 3 billion could, if they receive the headsets, could actually take it much faster, much further, because it would definitely provide access to telemedicine, to education, which would then self-balance, and we can tap onto talent which is hidden in Africa, which is hidden in remote locations where people have difficulties accessing basic internet, for example. And through that, we could bring out all the talent and see new advancements even faster than we have it today. So really looking forward to it.
No, thanks so much. I mean, we're such tactile, visual human beings that this is going to create,
Absolutely.
the next wave of evolution for humanity. Brian, over to you for your closing statement.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's very important from an African context, especially to understand that virtual reality and extended reality is still considered largely as nascent technology. So whether or not there are already people, protagonists, or people within the business or within creating enterprises solutions for this, there is still a lot of space for growth and collaboration, especially by working with a lot of people in the West in terms of bridging the knowledge gap, bringing back that information. Not only can it impact communities positively, it can also change lives in terms of creating value within the society. So I just want to say, if there's any young person watching this show right now, this is not a flooded business as it is. It's not saturated. There's a lot of opportunities for you to be part of the players in the industry. And it only takes for you to just say, you're going to send an email to BlackRhino, we are present in Nairobi, or we work within the email, or there's a huge community of people, whether or not it's in the community in South Africa, in West Africa, or North Africa. There's a vibrant community that is open and able to bring in people for us to learn together. It's still largely considered nascent. So please feel free to just engage further with anyone within the community or the panel here. And of course, you can reach me personally on my LinkedIn page or send us an email on BlackRhino VR. We are part of this huge community of VR enthusiasts. And I'm just thrilled to see that there's a lot of youth, especially right now within the culture and creative industries, that are looking at extended reality as a strength in future. So I'm very happy to know that.
No, thanks so much for that. Up next, we have my favorite part of the show, where we show our gratitude and share the tech love. Tonight, we're going to be giving away some awesome prizes, a VR immersion, and then we have a great performance from the amazing level shot right here in the man-made studios. Thanks so much to our panel. It's been a real pleasure having you all here today. We're going to be following all of your progress on all of the various platforms, and we're looking forward to having another session in VR with all of you. Thanks for your knowledge and for your positive impact that you're all making in the world. We're grateful and we appreciate that you're able to share this time with us. Don't go anywhere, because our giveaways are up next. All the weekly registered guests go into a random draw, and tonight we're going to give away one VR immersion team building day. The winner and up to 5 of your colleagues will be able to enjoy a 3-hour VR immersion of team building, from virtual meetings to entertainment and even a virtual visual wellness meditation from Man-Made. We do these VR immersions for various corporates in our custom programs and at our exec program at Mount Grace. Tamsin, can we roll the randomizer, please? And congratulations to our winner, Yolanda van Rooyen. Well done on winning the prize. We'll be contacting you to giving you your VR immersion day. Thank you so much. Thanks so much to all of you for joining us tonight. I hope you had a good time and took away some knowledge on how VR and AR are set to disrupt our reality in the near future. We need to embrace this next wave of computing and think, how can we rework our own business models to work within these mediums? Next week, we'll be looking at the workplace of the future, from the gig economy to working remotely, and ultimately using exponential growth and technology to augment and enhance the workplace of the future. Make sure to register on our website to stay informed and stand a chance to win in the Share the Tech Love giveaway next week. We'll also be announcing the winner of the Maharishi 5-year business degree worth 2.2 million Rand or $125,000. Remember to like and subscribe to our social media channels as well as our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and click the bell to get notified when we release a video. Each week we end the show with something beautiful, and for our performance this evening is a showstopper. Lebo Sekoto has gone from performing with Lebo M at a very young age to becoming the first Event Hawaii K-Day Dream It Possible winner for Cape Town. Her career knows no bounds, and she's been recently crowned as the winner of the Teslasuit South Africa. Lebo exudes enthusiasm and charisma. Hope you enjoy. Take a listen. Her contacts are on the screen now.
It's been an honor hosting you. I'm Mick Mann. Let's future-proof Africa together. Hope you had a good time. Keep smiling and stay safe. Over to you, Lebo.
The layers I had are all gone. I'm exposed to the world like a newborn. I've gotten so used to the touch. I've gotten so used to the love. And now I crave it. I need to feel it. I need to hear it so bad that I'm willing to do anything. To do anything. Love is a drug and there's no cure. Love will bring you to your knees. Love is an image that's unattainable. Love is a drug and there's no cure. Love will bring you to your knees. Love is an image that's unattainable. I quit love and all the drama it involves. I don't care for the admin of it at all. No more late night calls and no more long-winded messages. No more lies and no more thoughts of grandeur. I'm done. I'm done, babe. Love is a drug and there's no cure. Love will bring you to your knees. Love is an image that's unattainable. Love is a drug and there's no cure. Love will bring you to your knees. Love is an image that's unattainable. That's love. Oh, that's love. That's love.